Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Umova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, you can send it over anytime to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. You can get it answered on Mailbag or Movie Talk, and sitting with me is the man who decides just that, the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, Mr. John Campea. John, what's up?
Hey, I'm so excited. This has been such a great week already. I'm looking forward to the weekend, and this is great now that you're hosting Mailbag.
So strange.
This is kind of like your show now.
I want to hear greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. There we go. It kind of
feels better. Feels right. All right, let's get into the first question. Louange Mbala writes, "Hey guys of AMC, love the show and can't wait to watch it each week. I was wondering about the new direction that the rebooted Fantastic Four movie is taking. With them traveling to a different universe, could this ultimately lead them in that X-Men universe, where eventually the two worlds could collide drastically in future movies within the Fox comic world? Love what you guys do and keep up the good work."
Okay, so we know that in the Fantastic Four, because they put out a synopsis recently for the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot, and they're going to something, they're not calling it the negative zone. Do you guys remember what they were calling it? It's not this parallel universe thing. It's not called the negative zone. It's called something else. So the Fantastic Four go into some weird zone, get their powers from that, and come back. Okay, so the question is asking, do you think that kind of represents like them crossing over into the X-Men universe? No, not at all. Although I do completely believe that Fox is planning on crossing over their X-Men universe and their Fantastic Four universe, but there is nothing right now to suggest that they have to be two separate universes that are coming together. I believe as of right now, the way Fox is planning it, I have nothing to base this on, okay? But I believe is that they already inhabit the same world. Remember, the old Fantastic Four movies are gone. They don't exist. They are starting with the Fantastic Four. And there's nothing to say that as this movie starts, that we don't see some newspaper ads around or some newspapers laying around with stories about the mutant problem or whatever. Cool. That the X-Men, even though they may not be household names in that universe, maybe nobody in the public have heard of the X-Men per se, but that this world that Fantastic Four will play in is a world in which mutants exist. And that doesn't mean that mutants have to play any part in the first Fantastic Four movie, but just some references here and there that there is a mutant rumor or a mutant dilemma or a mutant problem, whatever, that mutants exist. And that's all they have to do. That opens the door for them in all their future movies or in all the future X-Men movies, especially with the X-Men reset timeline coming out of X-Men Days of Future Past. Then now they're open to actually cross paths. They don't need to go to different universes or create some kind of pseudo Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of situation to bring them together. They already live in the same world, but it's a big world. So just because they exist in the same world doesn't mean they have to cross paths yet until Fox is good and ready for it.
Didn't Kinberg say something that completely shot down everyone's hopes and dreams that would happen because the Fantastic Four wouldn't seem as special in comparison to the X-Men because they're not mutants. So they wouldn't seem as va-va-voom like next to them.
I don't think Kinberg, because Simon Kinberg, the guy who's writing Fantastic Four,
he said something that like
did such a great job on how many other films. But we trust this dude. I think he's a very good writer. I don't think he was directly shooting down the notion that these are going to be crossover. What I think he was specifically trying to do was shoot down any anticipation that we're going to see X-Men in this Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, okay.
I think he was shooting that down completely. But like I said, I'm just basing this on my own interpretation. I could be wrong. But the way I interpreted it and the way I read it was he wasn't closing the door on these worlds coming together. We know Fox is looking to create a shared cinematic universe. Whether they're going to do it with, Fantastic Four and X-Men, that remains to be seen. I believe that they are. But I do believe him when he says that we're not going to see any sort of X-Men or mutant presence or any of that kind of stuff in this Fantastic Four movie. But I think they're just establishing their new world and they'll open up the door for crossovers later.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Jace Ruiz writes, you guys went on waxing poetically on Al Pacino being in a Marvel movie, but there has got to be an ugly truth that has to be addressed. What if he's not utilized well? Sir Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3 was not an important character. Glen Close in Guardians was a character that anyone could have played. Michael Douglas, we can't say since we haven't seen Ant-Man. Rene Russo, not used that well in the first Thor movie. Then, when got interesting in the second film, she gets killed off. Only Anthony Hopkins and Robert Redford were used for important roles and made worthy characters for their respective movies. Just a fear that Al Pacino will fall in less important character category.
Well, let me challenge you a little bit on your thinking, Jace, in that there's this perception that if you have a great actor, then you have to make a great role for them. And to me, you guys have heard me say this before. The actor serves the character. The character doesn't serve the actor. Now, you can say, oh, any actor could have played the role Glen Close played in Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, any decent actor can play any role. The question is, do they play it well? And I think Glen Close brought something very cool to that role. That could another character or could another actor have played Nova Prime? Sure, another actor could have played it, but I think there's something very special about Glen Close playing it, and I like the way she said it, and the way she said her lines, and the way she portrayed and carried that character. Somebody once said, and I don't know who, but it's a common phrase in acting. There's no such thing as, what is it? Small roles? Small roles. There's no such thing as small roles, only small actors.
Yes.
Right? And the great thing about getting a Pacino, if they get Pacino into a Marvel film, the great thing about that is not that, oh, now they're going to get some great character for him to play. No. The great thing about a Pacino being in a Marvel film is simply the greatness that whatever role he plays, he is now going to elevate it from what it was. So if he plays a minor character, that minor character is now going to be elevated and be a better character for it because he's playing it. Not that you make the role bigger, not that you change the character to fit the actor, but you just know that you get a great actor like him in it that makes everything in the movie better. So you get Anthony Hopkins playing Odin, that movie is now going to be a better movie than if you got somebody else in it. You get a guy like Sir Ben Kingsley playing the, faux Mandarin that he played in Iron Man 3. Well, now the movie is going to be better because he's the one playing that role. Whether you think the role was a big role or not, the movie is better for it because same thing with Robert Redford. Somebody else could have played that in Captain America Winter Soldier. Sure, somebody else could have played it. But it was better because Robert Redford was playing it. And that's the great thing. That's the thing you get excited about Al Pacino, is regardless of what role he plays, whatever movie he appears in, that movie is now going to be elevated, whether it's because of a big role or a small role. The movie will be elevated because he's playing whatever role it is that's in there. And that's the exciting part.
Do you think it's going to happen anytime soon?
Well, let's put it this way. Al Pacino ain't 25.
Yeah.
So
true.
It's got to happen sooner than later. I would suspect, first of all, we're making a huge assumption that he is going to be in the movie. But if he's meeting with Kevin Feige, I don't think Kevin Feige has the time to just meet with anybody anytime he wants.
Yeah.
So I think if he's meeting with Kevin Feige, I'm going to go on the assumption that he is going to be in them. That being said, if he is going to be in a Marvel film, I've got to believe it's in one of the already announced movies. I don't think, Al Pacino, who's a fact checker, Jonathan, can we look up how old Al Pacino is? I believe, I'm going to shoot a wild guess here. I'm going to say 69. I'm going to guess that Al Pacino's 69.
Great number.
If he's do we got it?
Born in 1940, so that would put him at
74.
Wow,
he's
looks
74.
young.
He looks and acts great.
That's crazy.
So if he's 74, and Marvel's already got movies planned up to 2020, which is 6 years away, which would put him at 80. Do we think, would he be doing a movie after 2020? Probably not. I gotta believe he's gonna be in one of these films that are already planned, whether it's an Avengers 2, or whether it's a Black Panther, or whether it's Inhumans, or whether it's Captain Marvel, or whether it's Thor 3, whatever it is. I think he will appear, and he will appear what role?
Yeah.
No idea.
No idea.
Totally no idea. I have a feeling they might make it created a new role, like one that's not in the comic books, which would actually be pretty cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see it. Just to see him
I know, right?
on screen in a comic movie is just going to be so killer. I can't wait.
That'd be awesome. Felix G writes, "Hey ho, guys, love the show. I'm a big Jackie Chan fan. What are some of your favorite Jackie Chan moments? Thanks, and please keep on rocking that filthiness."
Well, I mean, look, we actually talked on AMC Movie Talk a couple weeks ago about the fact that if you don't believe in Jackie Chan's place in not just worldwide film, but even in Hollywood film history, you need to examine your head. Jackie Chan was so unique. As if he's past tense. Jackie Chan is so unique, and his history has been so unique. We've never seen anybody like him. There's never been anybody like Jackie Chan who can be the comedic clown at the same time that being the greatest action star in the world. I mean, he's the first guy that we would really sit around after his movies just to watch the blooper reels of him doing his own stunts. Which for a lot of his movies, and he's done a lot of bad ones, but for a lot of his movies have been like the highlight of the movies. Like, okay, yeah, I bought my ticket to go see this Jackie Chan film, but really just to sit through the hour-and-a-half movie so I can watch the 5-minute blooper reel, because his stunt blooper reels are always so mind-blowing. And he was really the first guy of his kind, a big star, doing all of his own major stunts, and doing some of the craziest things you've ever seen. Not until Tony Jaa came around did we see anybody else really doing it on that kind of a level, while having this undeniable, likable personality that you just can't help but like the guy instantly. There has never been a Jackie Chan before Jackie Chan, and I don't think there's ever going to be a Jackie Chan again. We talked about Tony Jaa, who does all of his own stunts and does them remarkably well. He is a worthy heir to the Jackie Chan throne in that regard. But even though he can do those stunts, Tony Jaa doesn't bring with him the natural charisma, likability, the goofy clown, all that stuff that Jackie Chan brought along with him too. And if they do another Expendables movie, you have to have Jackie Chan in. I know Stallone wanted Jackie Chan in this one, but you gotta get him for the next one. But in talking about, I can't list off my favorite Jackie Chan moments. I just think there are too many moments to talk about. I can talk about my favorite Jackie Chan films. So even though you asked for my 3 favorite Jackie Chan moments, I will list for you my 3 favorite Jackie Chan films. At number 3 for me is Shanghai Noon, the one he did with Owen Wilson. That movie is still probably my top 25 favorite comedies. I love that movie. Shanghai Nights, the follow-up sequel, so bad. So bad. But the first one, Shanghai Noon with Owen Wilson, and it's really the movie that I think that's the movie that made Owen Wilson a star. Owen Wilson had been in a couple things. There were some people who knew who he was. But when he was in that movie with Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson became a star because he really showed off his comedic stuff in that movie as well. My number 2 favorite Jackie Chan movie is Rush Hour 2. I do not like the first Rush Hour. I do not like the third Rush Hour. I don't like Chris Tucker at all. I don't find him talented.
I love them as a duo, though.
But for whatever reason, Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan together in Rush Hour 2 was Laurel and Hardy-esque. I mean, it was Abbott and Costello-esque. They played off each other, not so much in part 1, not so much in part 3, but in Rush Hour 2, those two guys played off each other so well and so great that even though I am not a fan of Chris Tucker, even I have to say, killed it in that movie. And they were just so great, and it's so funny, and the action's great, and having Zhang Ziyi in it as well, who I've had a little bit of a crush on for a long time, didn't hurt that either. My favorite one of Jackie Chan, a lot of people will say Super Cop or a bunch of others, not the original, but the second one, Legend of the Drunken Master. Legend of the Drunken Master, to me, kind of epitomizes the Jackie Chan film, like most of his career. And it's just, it's funny, it's awesome kung fu, it's like all these things rolled into one. Legend of the Drunken Master would be my favorite Jackie Chan movie.
Jackie Chan seems to be known for this, like, action, comedy.
Oh, yeah.
So if he were to break out, like what would be his number one genre besides that? If he were to break out of that?
Oh my gosh, what could he? I don't even know that I could see him in
Yeah.
anything. I know he's tried a couple of dramatic things, and just hasn't become big hits or whatever. But I just don't see him. I think that is where he lives,
Yeah.
and I think when you're the best at something, like I said, there's never been anybody like a Jackie Chan, and I don't think there ever will be another Jackie Chan. He is the king of that whole very unique niche. And I think he will always be remembered for it, and rightfully so. And he can really hang his hat on that.
Alrighty. Marcel Putris writes, love your show. I watch it every day on my way to school. My question is, why are writers more significant to TV shows than the directors? And why are the directors in movies more significant to the writers?
You know what? I really wish I should have thought of this, Dennis. I wish we had our friend Ryan McGuffey in here. Our friend Ryan McGuffey's been on the show. You've seen him talk about this. He just produced a movie that Dennis also worked on called Showrunners, which actually talks about the whole world of these lead writers, these showrunners who run all the most popular television shows. He would have been great to have in here. But so let me give you kind of a rundown on this. This difference between writers in film and directors in film and writers and directors in television. In television, it is the writers who run everything. They are the ones who run everything. And the reason they run everything is because they're the ones who are there for everything. Let's put it this way. A director in a movie, there's just that movie. And the director is in charge of it. And it's really, the director becomes the buck stops here person, notwithstanding the head of the studio or anything like that. But on set, the director is the guy who's in control of everything. They set the tone, they set the direction, they get the performance out of the actors that they want. They set the shots, all that kind of nonsense. Work with everybody else, and everything funnels through the director. And the director is the one who sets the vision from shot one of the movie to the final shot of the movie and everything in between. And he's the one who brings the cohesive vision for what the movie is. On television, it's different. Every episode of a television show will be directed by somebody different. And so a director will work on one episode, and they'll work for a month or two prepping for that episode, and then it's their turn to shoot their episode. But then they're off. They're not on the next episode. And, some TV shows, some directors will do multiple episodes or even in a row and things like that. But normally speaking, you'll get multiple directors on a single season, right? The people who are the constant from episode 1 of a season to the final season finale are the writers. They are the ones with the cohesive vision about where is this show and where is it going. Mm-hmm. The director isn't. The director comes in, does an episode, and goes out and does some other episodes of another TV show. Mm-hmm. In the movie, it's different. It's the director who's there from beginning to end and sees the cohesive vision come together. But in television, it's the writers. And the head writer, I'm simplifying this. It's more complicated than what I'm making it out to be. But for general sake, the head writer, the person really in charge of overseeing all of it, is what's known as the showrunner. They're the main producer. They're the head writer. They're the one in charge of all that with a team of writers around them. But they're the ones who kind of plot out and chart and know what's happening from episode 1 to episode 22 in a season. And then when the directors come in, they meet with the directors to make sure the directors understand the vision and where things need to go. And then the directors take their episode and make sure it follows that vision. And then the writers stay on and do the next one with a new director. So ultimately, that's the difference between a writer and director from a movie and a writer and director from a television show.
Would you say one is more important than the other in general?
Well, it depends on which one you're working on, right? If you're talking about the movie world,
right,
then I've said this before, and there's a debate to be had,
right,
absolutely. But to me, it is clearly the director is the most important guy. In the world of television, to me, debatable. We can have this debate, but to me, the writer is clearly the most important. Not just person, but group of people. The writers are the ones that are most important.
I'm sure you'll have a debate in the comment section.
Oh, I'm sure.
Don't
Absolutely.
worry.
Yes.
Noi Telenu writes, is there a difference in what is seen as good between pros like you guys who watch hundreds of new movies in theaters a year and most of the general public who watches perhaps 5 a year?
I think so. Okay, and first, to answer that question, you've got to understand this underlying principle. And you've heard me say it a million times, but this is the truth, and you have to understand this underlying principle, or else you're going to miss what watching movies is all about. all film is subjective. There is no objective measurement to something. The only things that are objectively true are things you can measure, that are quantifiably measurable. How tall are you?
5'7.5".
Okay, 5'7.5". So I could stand you up, take a tape measure, and we can quantifiably measure that you are 5'7.5". Right. That becomes undisputable. That is your height. How fast do you run the 100-meter dash? We can take a stopwatch, use a unit of measurement, and see how fast you run. Those are objective truths. In film, there is no such thing as an objective truth that you can measure other than the runtime.
Right.
You can measure how long a movie is, but that's the only objective truth you can do. Everything else is a matter of opinion. And when you understand that all film is subjective, that means there is no truly good movie and no truly bad movie, because what do you measure? There's no measurement, no quantifiable measurement, other than measuring other people's opinions, which by nature is subjective, right? So understanding that, a professional film critic, like a friend of ours, James Rocky, who was with, I think he does some writing for Variety now. But anyway, a professional film critic like James Rocky, his opinion of film, while it may be more informed than yours, is no more valid than yours. My opinion of film, I watch hundreds of movies a year, because all film is subjective, is no more or less valuable than your opinion of film if you saw 10 movies this year. Because it's all subjective. It's all up to your opinion, right? Here's where the differences come in. Let's say I'm not a beer drinker, all right? I know, as a Canadian, that blows people away. As a Canadian, people are like, wait a minute, you're Canadian, you don't drink beer? Yeah, it's true. So I'm not really a beer drinker. Whenever I do have a beer, it all tastes the same to me. I maybe drink 3 beers a year.
Wow.
And 2 of those will be on St. Patrick's Day. And then one other time when there's nothing else to drink, and somebody says, here, John, have a beer. I'm like, fine, I'll have a beer. And it all tastes the same. And I have some friends of mine who are like beer connoisseurs.
Yeah.
I mean, they drink like 100 to 150 different kinds of beer. And I'll be out with them, like hanging out in San Diego or something. They'll be, here, John, try this beer. This is what, and I don't like the taste of beer. Then you'll like this one. This is I don't know. I don't know what any beers are. And this is an Indian Pale Ale, okay? This is, what are different types of beers?
Pilsner, lager.
The Pilsner, a lager. Did I say one right? Is it an IPA? Okay. They'll say, this one's an IPA. This one has more, this is a darker beer.
The darker ones are disgusting.
And I'll take a sip and I'm like, yep, that's beer.
Really? You can't taste the difference between like a dark one and a light one?
No, I can't.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because I do not have the palate for it, right?
Okay.
But my buddies who drink lots of beer, not that they're alcoholics, but I mean who drink many different types of beer, through their experience of drinking lots of various types of beer, they develop their palate.
Right.
And suddenly they can start recognizing little things here and there that differentiate them and develop an overall larger palate for it, right? That does not mean, though, that his taste in beer is better than Dennis's taste in beer or whatever. If Dennis drinks a beer and he really likes it, that's a subjective thing.
Right.
I love this beer. And just because my buddy who's a beer connoisseur says, no, that doesn't have this aroma or this type of hops in it. I don't know what goes into beer. Goat urine, whatever. That's what beer tastes like to me. That doesn't make his opinion any more valid than Dennis's in that situation, right? The same is true of movies. It's all up to your subjective experience with it, and nobody can tell you that you should like a movie or should not, unless it's Star Wars, in which case you should like Star Wars. But realistically speaking, they can't. But guys like James Rocky or guys like me or guys like a Christian Harloff or things like that who watch hundreds of movies a year, all that means is that, you know what? We've been exposed to so many different types of movies and so many movies, period, that we do start to expand our palate a bit and we start to recognize, differences in this and that and the genres and we'll develop certain appreciations for things that maybe people who don't watch as many movies do or don't. Sure. And that means when we review a movie, we'll be looking for different things than, say, the average person who maybe sees 12 movies a year, right? But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that our opinion of a movie is any more or less valid than your opinion of a movie. Now, if we start talking about what should win Best Picture of the Year, and I've seen all 8 films nominated for Best Picture, and you've only seen 2, then yeah, my opinion is probably a little bit more valid, but not because I have a better taste in movies than you do, just because I've seen them, that's all.
Right.
But otherwise, your opinion, and look, I wish all film fans would get this, that they could look at a fellow film fan and understand that your opinion of a movie is no less and no more valid than my opinion of a movie. Because that's the bottom line. And that's the best thing about movies. That's the most exciting things about. Some people see that as a limitation on movies. I think that's what makes movies awesome. Because we can all see the same movie and we can all get something completely different out of it because it's an art. And you can't measure art. No, should you measure art? And anyway, I can rant on about the subjectivity of film for hours. So I'll just leave it at that.
That was a really inspirational speech, John. I
Well,
liked
thank
it.
you.
David McKinstry writes, "Hello, AMC crew. After watching GOTG again last night, I honestly believe it is one of the best movies of the year. I know it won't happen, but should GOTG and Winter Soldier be taken more seriously as best movie candidates?"
That kind of goes back into the last question, doesn't it? GOTG, for those of you who don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy is what he's talking about. Unless there's some other movie this year. Fact checker, Dennis, anybody? That has the acronym of GOTG? I don't think so. It's all a matter of, and this is true of anything that gets when it comes to Oscar time and award season. It's not whether or not that movie was good. I won't understand people who didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy. All films subjective, but wow, I mean, that movie's just great. So is Captain America Winter Soldier. It's great. But that being said, it all becomes, in award season, not so much about whether that movie was great. It's about what is it up against? What's it being compared to? What's its competition? So I know I'm going to have a lot of discussions with friends of mine this year about Winter Soldier should be nominated for Best Picture. And if it's up to me, if there were 10 nominees this year, I would nominate Captain America Winter Soldier for Best Picture. A lot of people are going to say Guardians of the Galaxy should be nominated for Best Picture. But I also know that a lot of these debates I'll have, a lot of my friends that are having that debate with me didn't see Imitation Game. It's like, wait a minute, you can't tell me that Guardians of the Galaxy should be nominated over Imitation Game when I know you didn't even see Imitation Game. I know a lot of my friends who love Guardians of the Galaxy like I did haven't seen Selma. They haven't seen Foxcatcher. They haven't seen Whiplash, and they haven't seen Foxcatcher. They haven't seen, a lot of these incredible Theory of Everything. They haven't seen a Nightcrawler is another good one Johnson pointed out. Birdman, they haven't seen those films. It's just like, okay, take a step back, go and watch all those movies, and then tell me you think Guardians of the Galaxy should be nominated for Best Picture. And you might, but we can't really have the discussion about which should be nominated for Best Picture if you haven't seen the other movies. Now, if you've seen all the other movies and you still feel that way, then there's a great discussion to be had. I think people, critics love Guardians of the Galaxy. I can't remember what percentage it was. Fact checker Jonathan, want to look up on Rotten Tomatoes, what did Guardians of the Galaxy end up with on the Rotten Tomatoes meter? But I'll be shocked if it wasn't at least 80% or hovering around the 8% mark. And then maybe look up Captain America Winter Soldier too, because that's in the 80s or higher as well, I think. Critics love those movies. The audiences went out to see them in droves. So there's clearly quality about them. These film snobs loved Guardians of the Galaxy. But what's that?
90%.
Oh, wow.
So 90%. Guardians of the Galaxy, 90%, which is going to put it probably in the top 5% of all rated movies this year. So clearly the film snobs loved it. But now you got to compare it to what's the competition. And look, everybody knows I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 13 times in theater.
Oh, wow.
13 times in theater I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy. Everybody knows I love it. But does it make it onto my list of best films of the year? It actually doesn't. Even though I loved it. Even though I completely loved it. Do we got Captain America numbers?
89. So
And Captain America 89. So pretty much a wash. 90% across the board. I would not rank them ahead of a lot of those films that we already mentioned, because there's some damn good films this year. It's just that a lot of people haven't seen them.
Right. And doesn't the release date, especially with Winter Soldier, it was released a while ago, doesn't that affect their chances of being nominated?
See, I don't think it affects their chances at all. What I think it's more a reflection about, the reason I think you see a lot more of these Oscar movies come out closer to the end of the year is because the studio knows this film is going to get Oscar buzz, and Oscar buzz will help the box office. So I can guarantee you, like, Foxcatcher hasn't made a ton of money, but it has made more money because it was released now and people are talking about Oscars for it than if it was released in June when no one's talking about Oscars yet. Theory of Everything is released now because people are going to buzz about Eddie Redmayne for Best Actor or about the film for Best Picture. And therefore, a few more people are going to go see it because of the Oscar buzz than if it was released in March, So it's not that releasing it at this time of year gives it a better chance to get Oscar nominations. It's that they know these films are going to get Oscar nominations, so they want to capitalize. It's about the money. They want to capitalize on the Oscar buzz to make some more money on it.
Smart. Farouk Mansour writes, my question is about whether or not Martin Scorsese will ever actually make The Irishman. It's supposed to be another film in the gangster genre with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. I'm a huge fan of these actors, especially when they are in the same movie, and I would love to see this film get made. And with Martin Scorsese as the director, I'm having some technical difficulties over here. Mine disappeared.
Okay, I got the rest of it.
Right.
Martin Scorsese, the director, I can hardly contain my excitement. Do you think it will ever happen? And would you be interested in seeing it? Okay, so first of all, we have seen Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in 3 films together up until this point. 3 or 2. They were in Godfather Part 2. Never on screen together, though, because they're in different time periods. So The Irishman would be their 3rd film together, I believe. The second film they were in together was just a couple of years ago. It was that cop film. Fact checker Jonathan, can you look up that film? They were in together, and for whatever reason, 50 Cent was in the movie with them. I mean, yeah, of course. Who are you going to get a third to have Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in a movie actually on screen together? Oh, and Heat. Heat was the other one. But what was the other cop one they did recently with 50 Cent? That's the title I'm looking for.
It's called A Righteous Kill.
Righteous Kill. I think you're right. I think it's called Righteous Kill, and it was awful. It was terrible. Anyway, so first of all, the question, do I want to see The Irishman get made? Damn right. Mm-hmm. Joe Pesci. First of all, we have not seen enough Joe Pesci, except for in that Snickers commercial that he's been doing. That's about the only thing we've seen Joe Pesci in lately. I would love to see him on screen again. Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino in a, I almost swore, Martin Scorsese film revolving around hitmen and the mob.
Did you send this question in?
Are you are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Of course that's a movie that everybody on the planet wants to see get made. Now, it was a couple of years ago that was first all brought up, and Scorsese already has his next film lined up. I can't remember which the next one he's doing is, but a few months ago, Al Pacino did an interview, and Al Pacino said, absolutely, The Irishman is still happening. And he said, can you believe me and Scorsese have never made a film together? Like, I do a terrible Al Pacino. Hoo-wah. Anyway, yeah, he said, can you believe that? This will be the first time me and Martin Scorsese made a film together. And at first I was like, really? Like, you just think that Pacino and Scorsese have done something together before, but apparently they haven't. But he says, no, it's still happening. We are still doing this movie. It is happening. So keep your fingers crossed. This would be like the Picasso of all mob movies. A Scorsese directed, Pacino, Pesci, De Niro, all in the film together. Like, yeah, flip me over. I'm done. That's awesome. You've said enough. I don't have to see a trailer. I don't have to hear any other news. I don't have to know what the other cast is. I'm in. I'm totally in.
When I think of the gangster mob type genre, all these older movies come to my mind. Have there been any recent ones that you've enjoyed?
No. I mean, they had a few years ago, there was that Johnny Depp one. What was the name of that Johnny Depp movie, the gangster movie he did a bunch of years ago? It was based on a true story.
Donnie Brasco?
No, it wasn't Donnie Brasco. It came out after that. I think the name of the movie, I know Jonathan's looking up. The name of the movie was the name of the character, I think. But he'll look that up and I'll give it to you later. And that was bad.
Public Enemies?
Public Enemy, thank you. That was supposed to be a great movie. and it was not. Casino? What came first? Goodfellas came before Casino, right? Okay, so I'll say maybe Casino is the last one that I really liked. Mm-hmm. Can any of you guys? I mean, then there was that one that came out with Sean Penn last year or 2 years ago, Gangster Squad. That was supposed to be good, and that was awful too. Can you guys think of any like good mobster movies that came out post Casino? Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. So yeah, it does. We are due. We are due for a great mobster movie. I can't wait to see one.
Tom Gillard writes, "Hey AMC, big fan of the show. I'm a huge Liam Neeson fan and was just wondering as to what your thoughts were on his what appeared to be sudden change in film genres that he is in and now has become a big action star."
Well, okay, so Liam Neeson has turned into one of the most prolific actors in the business. He's making a lot of movies. Mm-hmm. And he's gone beyond just the action. He's doing comedies now too. We know he's going to be in Ted 2. He did A Million Ways to Die in the West. He did such a good job as good cop, bad cop in the Lego Movie. He's doing a lot of, I think he even did Nut Job, which was a terrible choice. But he's been doing a bunch of vocal work too. But you look in the last couple of years, you got Taken 2, Nonstop, Walk Among the Tombstones, The Gray, Unknown. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And yeah, much earlier in his career, it was a lot of, he was dramatic. He did a lot of dramatic stuff. Rob Roy was a great film, very underappreciated film. I think Rob Roy gets overlooked and overshadowed because it kind of came out in the same era as Braveheart. So I think unfairly people look at Rob Roy as the poor man's Braveheart. And it's not as good as Braveheart, but great. Braveheart's one of the all-time great films, so that's unfair. I think Rob Roy was great. The last dramatic live-action, wide-release feature film I can remember Liam Neeson doing, I think, was 2005's Kingdom of Heaven. That's the last one I can, like, as a dramatic, wide-release studio film that he can do. But so mainly he's been making his bread and butter on action. What do I feel about him making it on action? Dude, make that money.
Yeah.
Make that money. Look, you know how many actors would kill to have whatever kind of role, whether it's kids films, musicals, comedy, action, porn, whatever, that they know they can make a ton of money consistently, be offered tons of work. Because a lot of times, average film fans, myself, all of us forget, is that for actors, they are not a different race of being. It's not like elves and dwarves and whatever. They are human beings who need jobs. And acting is their job. And when you can be like a contract worker, like that's what actors are. They are high-paid contract workers, that you can get consistent, high-paying gigs and consistent, high-paying work. Liam Neeson understands right now, Liam Neeson and his management understand that he is a hot commodity when it comes to action. People like seeing Liam Neeson in action, and therefore there's a lot of work opportunities being presented to him for that. He's hitting it big with comedy, so therefore he's getting offered a lot of comedy stuff too. It's too bad about A Million Ways to Die in the West, but aside from that, so how do I feel about him doing it? Awesome. You go, Liam. Seriously, you go. You take those action films. And here's the thing too. Most of them aren't bad. It's not like Liam Neeson has been taking a lot of action films and they've just all been crap. Like Nonstop, which came out last year, or was it earlier this year? I'm losing. Earlier this year. Thanks, Dennis. Nonstop, while it looked like total crap, actually ended up being not such a bad little movie. And I think, The Gray was a really great movie. I won't be surprised if Taken 3 blows a lot of people away. I think the trailers look pretty good, actually. So as long as he's doing good work that people generally are enjoying and they're willing to pay to go see, take those jobs, man. I love Liam Neeson.
Yeah, I love Liam Neeson. And Taken is what I think most people associate him with. Do you think that he's ever going to break that? I mean, he shouldn't really break it. He does a great job at it. I love Taken. Do you think he'll ever kind of break that?
Well, okay, remember, Taken was only 6 years ago, right? So he was already a big star. He was already Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn long before he did Taken. Moving forward, will he mostly be known as the Taken guy? I don't know. It depends on what he does next. But I know definitely right now he's known for Taken because he's working on his third one right now. The third one's about to come out, I should say. But the bigger question is not just the Taken thing. Will he ever move out of the action thing? At some point, he's going to hit an age where
His voice is just so good for it, though. It's so good for it.
because it's so intimidating. He has the most intimidating voice in all of movies right now. Like that whole scene, that thing from Taken where it's like,
Yes,
I don't
the
know
monologue.
who you are,
Yes.
but I'm a guy with a certain set of skills. I will find you, I will kill you, and I am crapping my pants.
Yeah.
Like he's just got that voice, and he's huge.
Oh, really?
I remember the first time I actually met Liam Neeson. I've told this story before, but was for the press junket for The Grey. And he stood up to meet me as I walked in the room. And first of all, he like towers over me. And then he reaches out to shake my hand. And his hands are like this big. It kind of reminded me of Anthony Hopkins, who, while not a big man, he has deceptively huge hands. But anyway, Liam Neeson is a big, physically intimidating looking dude. When he stands up, he towers over most people. And so you do that, the voice, combined with his physical stature, combined with this, he's got the look of a hot girl's dad that would make you not even want to date the girl no matter how hot she is because you don't want to mess with that dad. You combine all three of those elements, perfect action star. Perfect.
Well, that was our last question for the day. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like the video. Comment below your thoughts. I want to thank the man sitting next to me. John, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the interwebs every day on AMC on our YouTube channel, of course, youtube.com/AMC Theaters. And you can find me on all my various social media channels just at John Campia.
And you guys can find me at Ashley Mova on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, you can find it in the description box below and download it and listen to it while you're pumping iron, driving to work, and all that good stuff. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for a brand new episode. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.